よし行こうか。なめるな。動くな。ジャムと牙動けない。
Jujutsu Kaisen has already done things I need to sit with for a while. MAPPA looked at the Culling Game, this sprawling, exhausting, morally complicated death tournament, and decided to make it the most visually demanding project they've ever taken on. And I think they're succeeding too, you know. Today I'm going through the 10 best fights and moments so far ranked by impact. Spoilers for everything through episodes 10. If you're not caught up, come back when you are. Seriously, you'll thank me.
Beginner 狩り
Okay, so I'm going to be upfront with this one. This is not a classic. Nobody's putting in a highlight reel 5 years from now, but here's what it is. Yuji enters the Culling Game essentially alone, carrying a weight of guilt that would flatter most people. Hanyu and Haba are exactly the kind of opponents designed to prove a very specific point. Fast, coordinated, and genuinely dangerous for anyone not running on Yuji's particular brand of stubborn determination. And yet he handles them, not stylishly, definitely not effortlessly. He grinds through it the way he always does, by simply refusing to quit.
Shikigami は術師と同一に扱われる。てめえでしょ。
投げちゃダメですよ。パンダ先輩。
Fight in JJK are won by hitting harder. This one couldn't be won by hitting at all. Kirara's attraction-based curse turned proximity itself into a liability. Every instinct Megumi and Panda have about closing distance gets systematically weaponized against them. I love how thoroughly flustered this fight makes Megumi look. He's usually the composed tactician who finds an angle nobody else can see. It is a small fight, but it absolutely earns its place.
見ろ！ダメージゼロだぜ！何か来るぞ！クソ逆か！芸人だもん！地に置いてなめるな。
I genuinely didn't expect this fight to work. Takaba is a failed comedian whose curse technique is, well, as far as anyone can tell, the physical manifestation of committing to a bit. Hazenoki is a man whose body detonates on command. Now those aren't concepts that should produce a coherent fight at all, but it does work, because MAPPA commits completely to the absurdity, frame by frame, without flinching once. Every time Takaba deflects on explosions through sheer comic timing, the show quietly argues that in the JJK universe, unhinged conviction is a perfectly legitimate combat philosophy. It's loose, weird, and funny in ways that feel genuinely earned rather than cheap. As a counterweight to everything this season is doing emotionally, the grief, the dread, the body horror, this fight functions as a necessary pressure valve. I needed it. After everything that came before, I think we all did.
どうもと相談が
虎杖、手出すなよ。なめるじゃねえか。イかれてんな。
反撃もしね
話は聞いてやる。お前が立ってるうちはな、今聞くっつったろ。だと思ったよ。それを言うにこと書いて人に言われてきましただ。ああ、
俺は部品だ。
おいおいおい、マジかお前。死んだか。
先輩、
これが部品の熱かよ。
Hakari is one of those characters who gets hyped for 2 full seasons before you ever see him actually do anything. Gojo vouches for him. Everyone else treats his name like a weather warning. And when Yuji shows up at his underground fight club, not to brawl, but to recruit, Hakari's response is simple: prove it first. I love a good clash, and I totally loved where Yuji holds his own just long enough to make his case. The whole sequence functioning as a power calibration disguised as an argument. A recruitment pitch delivered through broken ribs and grudging respect. I walked away from this more excited for the Culling Game than any amount of build-up had managed to make me. Naoya Zen'in flexing his hair mid-battle whilst Choso can barely track him is one of the great I need to immediately rewind this moments of the season. His projection sorcery, movement calculated in precise 24-frame intervals, makes him look less like a fighter and more like a rendering error. Choso throws everything, and Naoya sidesteps it repeatedly with an arrogance so complete that it's almost funny. The first half plays out like a study in competence gaps. Then the register shifts entirely. What started as Naoya toying with an opponent becomes something uglier and harder to sit with as Choso gets pushed to a place the show hasn't taken him before. Oh, I absolutely loved it when the tone shifted too. This is where this fight earns its ranking. The contrast between these two halves makes each one hit harder in retrospect. I genuinely felt a sense of happiness when Naoya, this misogynistic character, got what he needed. If you're enjoying this season and the episode, give this video a like and consider subscribing to the channel if you're new here. Thank you.
親の足を引くなどあってはならない。
これ作ったら私死ぬから。じゃあね。
おい、前待て。
たは私で私はあんたなの。
戻れよ。
壊して。
ない起きて。
I've been thinking about this scene more than almost anything else this season has done. Mai doesn't fight. There's no clash of techniques, no exchange of blows. She chooses. In her final moments, she pours everything she has left into her sister, one last cursed tool fashioned from what remains of herself, and in doing so, unlocks what Maki was always meant to become. The tragedy is that Mai never believed in herself the way she believed in Maki. She carried that asymmetry for the entire series without making a noise about it. When she does die, it isn't dramatic in the traditional JJK sense. It's small and interior and completely devastating. The transformation it triggers, Maki standing up with her heavenly restriction fully realized, grief and power completely inseparable, is the most emotionally coherent moment the season has produced. Everything that follows Mai depends entirely on this. I think about it often.
領域展開
残念でした。
搭載できるだけの領域に
なぜ当たる。
ガキが
なるほど、単純な必中領域よりよほどやりづらい。
上も影だ。
しくったな。
嘘ついてなんぼ。
This is a fight about running out of options and finding one you haven't used yet. Reggie summons objects through receipts, cars, furniture, structural materials, conjured mid-battle, and Megumi is completely outgunned on resources. The chase sequence, MAPPA animated in episode 10, is some of the best movement work of the season. Kinetic, tightly edited, framed like a thriller rather than a tournament bracket. What makes it compelling is that brute force simply won't work here. Megumi has to win by understanding the terrain and making the environment do the heavy lifting. Luring Reggie into a gymnasium to finally open his domain in a confined space is a payoff 5 episodes in the making. This is the fight where Fushiguro stops being the season's background character and firmly steps into the foreground.
全部壊して。
There's a version of this that feels like empty catharsis revenge theatre for everyone who already hated the Zen'ins. Maki leaves that room carrying what remains of her sister, and the grief and power are completely tangled up inside each other. She doesn't celebrate, she moves. Through every elite clan member who spent years telling her she was worthless with a cold precision that hits harder than Fury ever could. The Kill Bill comparisons critics have been making are cinematically earned. The framing, the controlled violence, and the relentless forward momentum are all there. But where Kill Bill ends in triumph, Maki ends in something quieter. There's no victory lap. The Zen'in Clan spent generations building its power and reputation. She erased it in one night, and I sat in silence for a while after the episode cut to black.
特に変化 無駄だ。
Courtroom inside a domain expansion. Let me just sit with that for a second. Higuruma's curse technique puts you on trial, forces you to answer accusations before judgment, and strips away your cursed energy entirely if the verdict comes back guilty. Against Yuji, a man silently carrying the weight of every death Sukuna caused using his body, this fight is psychologically brutal in ways that extend well beyond the physical exchange. The moment Yuji pleads guilty to crimes he didn't commit, choosing accountability over survival instinct tells you more about who this character has become than 2 seasons of battle ever did. The fight is mechanically inventive, but it lands because it's the show finally asking what it costs to be Yuji Itadori and letting him answer honestly. Higuruma going from disillusioned executioner to reluctant ally across a single episode is quietly one of the best pieces of character writing this season has managed. The premise of this fight makes me deeply uneasy in exactly the right way. 2 students of the same master, one dispatched to kill the other. Yuji, having already died once, meets the order with a kind of exhausted courage, not burning survival instinct, but obligation. He shows up anyway. Yuta, for his part, is terrifying in a way distinct from the usual JJK antagonist template. He doesn't perform menace, he moves like someone who's quietly and comprehensively surpassed everyone around him, and that economy of effort is far from unsettling than spectacle would be. The fight is fast, brutal, and ends in a way that completely reorients Season 3's opening act. It establishes the season's core promise from the very first episode. The Culling Game has real consequences. An attachment to any character is no kind of guarantee. I was not ready. Season 3 made that abundantly clear.
食べ盛り
私の道を阻むのは
フラリテブラスト
So can we just talk about the absolute chaos that was the Sendai Colony battle? Because Gege looked at a 3-way fight and said, what if everyone here was cracked out of their minds? You've got Yuta, the guy Gojo himself called potentially his equal, going up against a sorcerer who can literally nuke city blocks, and a woman who can fold space like it's origami. The power scaling is absurd. Every time you think one person has the advantage, the dynamic completely shifts. It's not just a slugfest either. There's genuine strategy, cursed technique counters, and Yuta pulling out at Rika like, oh, you thought this was hard mode? Nah. And can we talk about how insane the animation was in the episode? Peak JJK, no debate.